Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by former Robert Morris women's hockey player, Wasyn Rice. Welcome to the podcast, Wasyn, and how's everything going?
It's going pretty good. Just settling into my place right now, so keeping busy.
Well, that's good to hear. And let's start off talking about the situation with Robert Morris for a little bit. When did you find out the news that the program was going to be canceled, and what was your initial reaction to that news?
So when we first found out, it was the end of May. It was pretty brief. We just got an email basically telling us that we have a mandatory meeting, and it was in 2 hours. So it was pretty suspicious already as it was happening. And then my reaction prior to actually going into the meeting wasn't good. Like I knew something was wrong just because the whole setup wasn't right. And then I was actually messaging my teammates, and we all had the same feeling. We just knew something wasn't right. And I jokingly just texted a former player that was on the team, I think they might be shutting our program down. This all doesn't add up. And she was as everyone kind of reacted, there's no way, we just had an unreal season. There's not a chance this would be happening. And sure enough, we get on the call, and the first thing that we heard is unfortunately, we're shutting down your program. And prior to even having this feeling, I reacted with such shock. I hadn't, it just took me completely out of breath. I remember I was sitting in my house, in my kitchen, and I was listening to it, and nothing, I couldn't process the whole situation at the start. I was just in complete shock. And then my mom walks in, and I just start crying, and we're still in the meeting, and it was pretty brief. It was 5 minutes maybe. They basically just told us not even a reason. It was just financial, sorry, your season's your team's cut. And if you have any questions, but they didn't even allow us to get any questions. They said we'll come back to you, whatever. So it was very brief and very just completely shocked.
And how have you changed? I guess from when the announcement happened to now, what's your overall thoughts on just the entire situation after all the news has come out about it?
Um, it's more disgust. I'm disgusted how the whole thing happened. And with more like investigations going on and more news coming out about this kind of was done behind the scenes, there was suspicious activity going on. It makes me disgusted that a person or people could have just put the situation on a bunch of kids and coaches and staff without any thought of what our future is, kind of thing. It was just, and still now discovering more and more each day, I feel like it's just getting worse on their part. It's not looking any better for them, or we're not getting any answers we want. We're getting more answers that we are more disgusted with and more upset about, because it's just nothing is adding up, kind of thing. And it just continues to look bad on their part and make us more upset.
Now, did the university ever let the players get the chance to voice their concerns over the program leaving?
They did, to an extent. I think certain people, part of the program, definitely let us speak what we wanted to. We asked questions in regards to what's going on. Did we get the answers we wanted? No, I don't think we got the real truth out of what we wanted. And the other thing was I think people were listening to us, yes, but I don't know if they were actually hearing what we wanted, what we were saying, kind of thing. I also think the people that were hearing us were the lower people who wanted to help, but the higher authorities were the people we wanted to hear and from, and know that we were saying all this stuff. And I don't think the higher authority was taking us into consideration.
Yeah, because I was talking to one of your former teammates, I guess, and they were saying how during that meeting where they let players kind of ask questions that the school president left the meeting early. Is that true? And what was your thoughts on that? Because a lot of people thought it was kind of disrespectful.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It was very disrespectful. He originally actually wanted to leave even earlier than he initially did. And the fact that he couldn't give us at least an hour or 2 hours of his day to figure out the situation and the questions that we had regarding why and what was done was, yeah, I just found strongly disrespectful and very inconsiderate, just considering the fact that like all of us have lost so much and we would want to know answers regarding why. And there was just very minimal, and every answer he would almost give, it was like scripted. You could tell like it wasn't being answered to the fullest. It was being all the questions, or well, at least most were being like well avoided to answered like to the truth, I found. And that's just, I don't know. It sucks on our part because we're trying to figure out what is going on and why this is happening, and we can't get like the honest answers, I felt.
Now, what have you personally tried to do, I guess, to help bring the program back? Because I saw that there was an announcement recently that they are going to attempt to try to bring it back for the 2022-23 season.
Um, yeah, so are you asking what I personally can do?
Yeah, like what does the team try to do, I guess, to help bring the program back? Because I saw there was an announcement recently that they plan to bring the program back in 2022-23. So what has been done, I guess, to help lead to that decision?
Yeah, so the biggest thing we pushed on everyone was like on our team was just continue to talk about it, continue to post about it, keep it everywhere you can, because the more we talk about it, the more it's gonna stay in public's eye, like in the public eye, and be resolved. Where if we don't, it's just gonna be kind of pushed under the rug. So us personally, we just continue to post like the fundings, the articles, like anything we can keep posting, we have to keep going, and basically just keep the talk and everything up for the public, so like we can stay in conversation with everyone in regards to help solve this issue and resolve like a program for the upcoming season. Like unfortunately they wanted to do a season this year, but we couldn't, just due to it was such short timing. So again, like we need to keep the conversation going throughout the whole year to so they can bring it back for the following year. So I just think the biggest thing for us that we, as everyone has done, is just continue to post about it, continue to talk about it, keep advocating it as much as we can.
Now, what are your plans for this upcoming season, and do you plan to stay at RMU or are you transferring to another school?
So our school offered to honor our scholarship. So I'm continuing. I'm going to graduate in December. And then I'm going to be transferring back to Canada. I'm going to University Prince Edward Island. It's on the East Coast. My brother plays there, so and my whole dad's family's from there. So it was like an opportunity I've never been given to be around family. So I jumped on it as soon as I could, and I'll also be getting my master's there. So I'm pretty excited for what it holds.
That's awesome. And are you going to play hockey there, or is it just going to be strictly education based?
Nope, I'll be on the women's team because I still have 2 years of eligibility. Technically three. I'm just going to be using I'll only be playing like half a year, but it's a full year of eligibility, which I'm fine with because it works out perfect.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I guess what are your goals and expectations for that team? Have you gotten the chance to meet some of the players on that team, and what's it going to be like for yourself playing in Canada versus the U.S. for college?
Yeah, so I got a chance to meet a few of the girls because I went there I just got back from the vacation. I was there for 2 weeks. So I went on the ice for some training and ice because I haven't been able to get any ice where I am. So that was nice. I got to go on the ice with them, a few of them. So it was good. My expectations are just I want to just enjoy it. Like I'm just there. I love hockey, and I want to be able to enjoy wherever I go, and I think that's what I will be able to do there. I think they have a good incoming team. They built a really strong team, a lot of players, so a little bit different from from here because we didn't have as many. Um, but again, like just super excited about it, and I think the difference between Canadian and American, I just found I haven't played in Canadian hockey like university wise, but we've played expedition games against like a couple Canadian teams at RMU. So, and they were all there, like their level of like skill, like they were right there. So I don't see um, the change of skill or speed being much different. There will be a little different. I definitely think so, just because of the levels that it's played at. But again, like I think it's going to be just as competitive and just as fun.
Now, what have you been up to during this off season? Obviously, the whole news with RMU happened, but besides that, I guess, has there been anything interesting you've been doing, whether it's hockey related or non-hockey related this off season?
Yeah, so I this summer I went back home. I usually do, and I got an internship to do with my mom. She's for her real estate business. So I'm in marketing, so I did all like the social media, and I kept busy with that. And I also just had a nice like food truck job, so I kept busy with work because I was on it almost like every day, especially weekends. And I spent a lot of time with family, so I like did a couple vacations to my mom's side of the family, and then I spent like 2 weeks in Prince Edward Island where my dad's family is. So lots of family time, I think, throughout the summer. And then I just continue to train as normal, just because we weren't sure what was going on, and so I continue to train and work. So spend lots of time with family.
No, what were you selling in the food truck? I'm just curious about that.
Sorry.
What were you selling in the food truck? I'm just curious about
Oh,
that.
um, it was like an Italian, like Canadian one. So it had like gourmet, like grilled cheeses and like burgers and yeah. So it had like a bit of like Italian food and Canadian. So it was a good mix, and it was good, really good food.
Well, that sounds good. And if I ever get the chance to go up to Canada, that would be something I got to try when I'm down there.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, let's start off talking about the beginning of your hockey career. You're from hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, Invermere, British Columbia.
Yep.
Talk about growing up there and how did you start playing hockey?
So Invermere is like a really small town. Like we only have a population of 4,000. So hockey there wasn't obviously great. It was very small town hockey. All but like everyone, like it was like a sport that everyone kind of got into. I found there just because we didn't offer a whole lot. So and then the reason why I think a lot of people get into it, just like I did, we have like a big lake, and it freezes over the winter. So we play a lot of pond hockey, and we get a lot of you just meet, that's how you meet your friends and everything, is just throughout the pond hockey. But what really got me into it was I have a brother, two sisters, and my dad who all played hockey. So I grew up, just as soon as I came out I was a baby, I was surrounded by hockey. Like it was something I just kind of grew up and learned to love. But it was easy for me to love because it was just something I always saw and always was around. Especially like being down at the pond, we like my parents, we didn't like have it wasn't a choice, but it was a choice, and it wasn't like we're going to the pond, you're putting on your skates, so you can either not come and sit there or you're going to put on skates and have fun. So I learned to love it pretty quick just because I loved being around the people that were there. Like they were all my friends, they're all my family. So the atmosphere that surrounded like just being on the lake or being at the hockey rink with all my friends, like it was just the atmosphere especially that pulled me into the sport I found. And then being able to like share similarity like things with my siblings and being able to talk about it and being able to train together. Like my brother and I, that's why I think we got so close, was just due to the fact that we both played hockey and we could go do one-on-ones all the time, and it was just like we always had each other for that. And I think that's why my love for hockey just grew even more, because I just loved being around everyone.
Now, growing up, who was your favorite player? Was it someone in the NHL or was it a female player on the national team?
Yeah, I always have to think about this one because when you're younger, like you don't like, it's sad, but you don't see a lot of women hockey players. You're not exposed as though you are to NHL players. So I would have to like, growing up, I watched a lot of the Canucks. It was my family's team. We always watched them. So I watched a lot of the Sedin brothers, which became like my favorite as a kid. As I got older and kind of understood the game more, my dad and I, we always talked about Drew Doughty as a defenseman. He just kind of played overall like a good player, like overall, all on the ice. So he became one of my top players that I just love to watch, just due to the fact that he was like a defenseman that just did it all kind of thing.
Yeah, scored goals, back checked well. He was a very complete defenseman, which is kind of rare to see in today's NHL. I feel like you either get a really defensive defenseman or a very offensive defenseman.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Now, before playing college hockey, you played for the Kootenay Wildcats. How'd you get the opportunity to go there and talk about your experience there overall?
Yeah, so with that team, I only affiliated with them. Prior to that, I actually, when I was 12 years old, I moved out of my house. I went and billeted about an hour and a bit away, just due to the fact that Invermere wasn't providing a female hockey team, and we didn't have like the facilities or the time to provide like good like on ice training. So I moved away and I billeted in, it's called Kimberly, and they had like a females midget team, and I played on that for the 2 years. And while I was there, the Kootenay Wildcats asked me to come affiliate for them for a couple of games because I was too young to play on their team full time. But I loved playing with them, like they were with the Kootenay Wildcats, because it was like I played midget A, and it's sad to say because that was like the best I could get around like my location. Like that was the best hockey you could kind of join unless you wanted to stay in guys. So I played on a midget A team, which I don't know what American terms are, but it's like U15A, and I just continued to get better throughout the time that I was there. And again, like Kootenay Wildcats saw that, so they pulled me up to play with them, and that was AAA. And I loved it. I loved the competition. I loved the speed that was there. They had like the difference from where like I was playing from there. They had like tryouts, and every player was trying out to make the team. Where I was, it was just kind of you make the team if you show up kind of thing. So it was good to jump back and forth and see the difference. And then, yeah, so I stayed there. I played midget A in Kimberly for 2 years, and then yeah.
Yeah, you then went on to play for the Ontario Hockey Academy. What led to the transition to go out to Ontario, and how did you adjust to that?
Yeah, so with my years being at Kimberly, we were going to a few showcases, and I was surprised how much actually they were showcasing for the level that we were in. Like we were very low, so like to be seen at that level, like it was rare, especially like during like with academies. Um, but yeah, my grade 9 year, I got interest from a few academies. Um, but like as anyone knows who's looked in academies, they're really expensive. They're not easy to get into, kind of thing. Like you have to have quite a bit of money to pay for it because they're pricey. And so I was just kind of waiting to see if I could get an offer, like a scholarship, just to go to an academy. Anyone, like I wasn't picky. I just wanted to go to get full training, kind of thing. So Ontario Hockey Academy contacted me the summer before my grade 10 year, and they offered quite a bit, like a chunk off my like the tuition there. So it was hard to say no in regards to like they're giving me living, food, like on ice training, off ice training, like plenty of games. Like it was, you couldn't say no to this opportunity. So I took that up, and the transition was not easy. It was very hard considering like I live on the far side of Canada, so British Columbia, and then to go on to Ontario, it's like a 4-hour flight. So seeing my parents, being able to go home, all that was really hard, and like it wasn't easy as I have to fly every time, and it wasn't like cheap either because of the distance. So it sucked when everyone's parents would come to visit kind of thing, and like I had a hard time adjusting, especially my first year because I was pretty young. But adjusting to the fact that like I'm not going to be able to see my parents every game, like they're not going to be there. They're just going to have to like, and some of the games were broadcasted, some of them weren't. They did a very good job actually with there because we have a lot of international students that come through. So they did pretty good at like recording all our games. So my parents were still able to like watch through online. But again, like the transition was really hard just due to the fact that I was so far from home. But I really think each year it got a little easier, but it was never like the easiest I found. Like it still was hard each year to leave home. But like if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have been as prepared as I was for university, I think. So I think that really helped.
Now, how did those teams help prepare you for college hockey with Robert Morris?
I think each team I played for, especially from grade 8 on, they all had like a different impact to me. I think every coach, every player, every person that was surrounded me in my like college or before my college years, they all helped me like in some sort of way. Like my coaches, they helped me push myself, believe in myself, and then the players around me were just something like that I learned to continue to love and understand. Like this is why I play the game. Like I love being with people. I love the atmosphere, and I think the biggest thing, like especially with Ontario Hockey Academy, like it taught me to like adapt to uncomfortable situations. So whatever it was, like I was put into a dorm. I went to this school and I didn't know anyone. I didn't know a single person. It was very uncomfortable for me because I'm like not a super outgoing person. So getting to know people in a place that I know no one was really hard. But like you have to look at it as like everyone's kind of in the same situation. So it helped me grow as a person and prepare to come to college and understand that like you're going to be put into these situations, you just have to learn to adapt. So I just really found that like every team that I went to, the all around, like they all had some kind of different impact, whether that was learning to learn a skill or learning to like carry a confidence and like believe in myself. So I think every team shared a different impact.
Now, talk a little bit about your recruitment process. What was that like for yourself, and what made you want to go to Robert Morris versus other schools you might have looked at the time?
Yeah, so when I first got recruited by RMU, I wasn't sure what the school was. I wasn't like but like to be fair, I didn't know what most schools were because coming from Canada and a small town, you're not introduced to like any like American schools. You really don't know much about them. So I was just kind of beginning to learn about all the schools, and my coach came up to me and he said, "Look at this school. They're a really good school. I think you should really take it into consideration." And I was talking to a few others, and it was I think around my grade 11 year, around there. I'm not sure exactly. It's been a while. I was on the phone with them, and I went for a visit, and when I got back, I was on the phone with them, and I felt after the visit that I was just like, I felt wanted. I felt like that they would really appreciate me as a player, and it was like, I didn't have to like pressure myself to become something I wasn't almost. Like they saw me for who I was and what I was capable of, and they wanted to use that. And that was like the biggest selling factor to coming here. Like I just know I remember being on the phone and like as soon as hearing like they're like, yeah, we really want you, like we see you in this spot, like it was like an instant like, okay, I think I'm ready to go there because I feel this is my most comfortable spot. I'm not even comfortable. It's just like most like I I feel like I'm already like a part of the team. It was really good feeling coming from the coaches and the people that were there, just being like, you will fit in good. Like this is gonna be the kind of a good spot. I also really enjoyed like the small school atmosphere. I don't like big schools, so nothing against them. I enjoy small atmospheres just because I've grown up in a small town. So there was a lot of selling points with RMU that I just instantly loved.
Yeah, and what was the biggest adjustment you had to make to college hockey? Was it the speed of the game or just the physicality side of the game since you're going against players that were a lot older than you were as a freshman?
Yeah, I think it's both. The biggest thing I found is that like every player that you're going to play against, even if it's on your team, like they're all going to share a high skill. Like it's going to be a really good like skill they're going to have, and they're going to be good. It's just going to be a different skill than what you've seen because it's going to be a whole different mix of skills I found like put into one team. So that's why I think the teams are so good is due to the fact that like each team and each player on the team holds its skill, but whether like that skill is going to be good, like it's going to be good no matter what. Like it's different from what like you're going to see, like what you're used to, especially in the like before college. You don't see as much skill as like each team in like university and college hold because like it's it's just like all different but all really good. So adapting like obviously the speed and the skill and the physicality was all there, like where sometimes like you're playing before like in before college it's not there. Like you'll face a team that maybe has a good physical or a good speed or a good like skilled players, like but like in university like it's all there, like all the skills, the speed, the physicality, like it's all put into one. So I just like I remember going on the ice for practice and like noticing that just my team like shared, everyone had different skills but they were all really good. Like it was crazy to see and adapt to like the difference from like junior to college just based on the fact that like you're facing so many more skilled players.
Yeah, and this past season, your team had to face a lot of challenges. One of those challenges was schedule changes. How did you mentally deal with all the changes that happened to your schedule, and what was the key for maintaining flexibility for this past year?
Yeah, it was definitely hard. I think honestly, even prior to the season, like knowing if we're going to have a season, knowing if we're going to have a league to play in because we weren't sure if all the teams were going to come in. There was so many things that we were like, it was just ifs and buts and like, what if this happens? And if this happens, what are we going to do kind of thing. So when we finally got into the season and the schedules again, like due to cases and people having to quarantine, it was super hard to just know what you're preparing for. Um, but like the thing we found as a team we built on this year was just like be prepared for anything. Be prepared if we're going to play tomorrow. Like it's just kind of one of those things where like we were being booked in week games because we needed to make up for the games that we missed. So it's just like the biggest thing we had to adapt to and be flexible with is just saying like we are going to have to face adversity at all times. So whether that be us going on for an extra ice time or taking a day off because we have a game coming up or going as hard as we can during this one practice because it's our only practice because we have so many to fit so many games in. Like it was just being able to adapt to what we were given. And I think we were fortunate enough to even be playing. So the fact that we had that kind of mentality, it really helped us just like continue to push through games, continue to fight, and just continue to be good as a whole team.
Now, what was it like not playing in front of any fans this past year, and how did you adjust to that?
I personally, I didn't mind it. I found it like easier because you're not like stressed under like being looked at, I found. It was hard when you're like, you score goals or something big happens and you're not hearing a cheer or a fan or any like, you're not seeing anyone's reaction. That was probably the hardest to think, like, to adjust, is like you don't see a reaction from the fans or you don't see anything out in the stands. Like, it was just bare. Um, it was sad. I think it was sad because it's just like you're expecting to see some reaction for some play that your player just made or your team, and there's nothing. I think just how we adjusted, we just kind of got used to it. We enjoyed, honestly, I think some of them enjoyed like just being able to not have any pressure, not like focus on what's going on in the stands. Like, you're able to just play as is, and that's what we did. We just adjusted to what we were given.
Now, heading into the CHA playoffs this year, your team was in third place, so you didn't get that first round bye. So what was your team's mindset heading into the conference playoffs this season?
Um, I think the best way we looked at it was like this is a different route than we've taken before. So with that being said, like let's take advantage of it, because maybe this is what we needed, as we've taken the same route for the past like 5 years. It's been the same. We've either gotten second or first and had that bye. So we took it as an opportunity to change our pace, and I think that's what we did.
Yeah, in the second game of that CHA playoffs, you played Mercyhurst and won that game in overtime. Just talk about what you took away from that game overall, and what was your reaction when Maggie scored that overtime winner to send you guys to the championship game?
Yeah, so it was crazy. I just remember when it happened, like it was like we were given a second chance almost, because I feel like we've had we like Mercyhurst is our biggest rival, I found. So to get that goal and to get me, like, it was just, I don't even know how to say it. Like, it was so exciting, and it was so happy because we haven't been doing good, obviously, in our overtime winners during our playoffs in the past. So to get that win, I think we all took it in quite well, and just we all just adjusted to the whole thing, and we're like, this is like, we were just given another opportunity. Like, we have to basically make up for it. Like, this is our win, this is our take. Like, if we didn't just go through all this, kind of like not to get to where we are.
Yeah, and just obviously Mercyhurst is your big rival. They beat you in that spot the previous year. So how good did it feel for yourself to kind of get that win, especially because of the history of that team when you guys play them in that situation?
Yeah, I think our team was so happy. Like, I've never, I don't know, like, yeah, from the past, like that's exactly kind of how they scored on us in the championship game. So like, to get that back was the best feeling I think our team felt all year. It was just being like, we finally like got it back. We stuck it to them. Like, we got it. Like, it was like, I don't even know. Like, it was just so, it was such a good feeling, just based off the fact that we lost to them last championship and we got them out. Like, I don't know. It's just a really good feeling overall.
Now, in the championship game, you played Syracuse. What did you take away from that game, especially the team's defensive performance and your goaltender's performance as well? Because that's what really stood out to me when watching that game.
Yeah. The biggest, I think, takeaway for that game was just, I think we all learned like to never give up. Like, and especially for Reagan, how she played such an unreal game. Like, it was the least we could do was win this game, I think, for her. Like, she hasn't only stood on her game, like her head for that game. Like, she's been on her head for many games for us. Um, it was just something like we all came together at once. I remember in the dressing room, we're kind of losing energy just because we've played a little bit more than the other team. That, like, we played more than Syracuse, so we were losing a little bit of energy. And we got in the dressing room and we need to get energy. This is the biggest thing. Like, this is our last game. Like, just give it all we got. And the energy changed. It was like we had a little dance party. We all got our blood flowing, and our just like kept going. And I think when we did this, it amplified the reason. Like, we were like, we just need to get through this game. Like, we had only one goal, and it was such a tight game. And I just remember taking like the biggest takeaway was just like, just keep the energy. Like, we just need to keep the energy. We're almost there. Just keep fighting, keep fighting. And I think the biggest person who took that was Reagan. Like, she never gave up. She kept fighting, especially to the last second when they almost scored. Like, she was doing anything she could. And I think it was unreal how she played, but it was just crazy overall.
Now, what emotions were you feeling after winning your first CHA championship, especially during your junior year? Because something I found interesting was everyone on your team, besides the freshmen, had at some point in their career lost the CHA championship game. So I thought it was great to see your team win in that spot after all the adversity that your team went through.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of us felt relief when we won, because it was just, yeah, it's been a long time coming, especially for all the past years that we've been that close. Um, so the feeling, I think the biggest one was just like, we did it, like we've done it, like finally kind of thing. But also just like straight, like it was emotional in the way, like a lot of us were crying just due to the fact that like we've fought for so many years to get there, and like we finally got it. We finally reached the top kind of thing. So it was just pure excitement, but like a happy sad almost, just due to the fact that like we did it. Like, we finally, like, it was just such a fight almost, like, I don't know. It was crazy. Yeah, it's just emotions you can't like put into words.
Now, your team made it to the national tournament this past year. You played the best team in the country, Northeastern, at the time. What did you take away from your first national tournament experience?
It was crazy. It was really cool to experience. There was all like, we had to do a lot of COVID protocol, which was expected. And then I think how we prepared to face the number one team, we just continue to be like, we just have to fight. As any game, as anything, we just have to fight. We have to push to our limits. It's kind of one of those things where you don't know what to expect because we've never played them. But we've obviously watched them on video. We know how good they are. We know where their strengths are. Um, so we tried our best to adapt, and I think we did very well, considering like we never played like any like top level teams throughout the whole year. So to go from what we were playing to that, it was a big surprise, but it was a great experience.
Yeah, and obviously Northeastern, ended up making to the final game. So, like, when you look back on that game, I thought your team played very well and kind of gave them a good run for their money. When you think back to that game, just how important was that game for yourself to play that type of team, and how is that game going to help your career moving forward, and how are you going to use that game, I guess, when you head to Ontario Tech for this upcoming season?
So I think the biggest thing that like for that game that we can take away, especially me, is just realizing that like you're always gonna face a harder team. There's always gonna be a good team in front of you. Um, no matter if you're the top team or you're the bottom team, there's always gonna be a hard fight every game. There's gonna be a good fight with every team that is in any league, like whatever league you're in, whatever division, like any team you're playing, you're gonna have to put up a fight. You're gonna have to work your ass off to like reach these levels, um, just because like it's like you just don't know what you're gonna face until you kind of face it. So I think playing the number one team was like a great experience, and noticing the skills that we can all compete. We're all there. Like we're not far off from the skill and the level, especially like each player on our team. Like we were all there. It's just different games, different mentality that every like team holds, and every like they're playing top level teams as well. So I I just always like say to our team, like I was like, if we're playing top end teams, like we'll be right there. Like it just we weren't used to it, and I as a player, like you wish you kind of played in more high level just like that, just because you want to experience more of that.
Now, overall, what will you take away from your experience at Robert Morris when you look back on it now, and especially since that game against Northeastern ended up being your final game with RMU, and you really didn't even know that?
Yeah, I think learning with my team and what we went through through the years that I was here is just being able to adapt again, like adapt to whatever you're given, and respect it. Respect what you're given and adapt to it because, again, like you said, like you're never gonna know when it's your last game. So RMU definitely gave me a great home and a great place to play, and I loved like playing here like every day. Um, and it was just it's something. The biggest takeaway I think is just learning to like love what you're doing and like respect it because it's just you never know when it's gonna be gone. So yeah.
No, we're now in a segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, where I ask you some non-hockey questions. My first question to you is, what is the most interesting thing you've seen or read this week?
So I recently, like I said, I went to PEI, so I got to experience a lot there. I think the most interesting thing that saw was I don't like we never get out to PEI, so I got to like hear and see my grandpa because he passed away when my dad was quite young, so I never got to meet him. But the stories that they were saying about him, it was so funny. It was just like so much of like how my brother acts, how I act, how like my dad acts. Like the personality trait of him was so much alike my family. It was crazy, and it was just super cool to like read about him and like see all these photos because I never have.
Yeah, that's awesome, especially yeah, like you said, like you can kind of trace it back to what some of your personality traits are like. So that's really cool that you got that experience, and yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, next non-hockey question is, what music do you like to listen to, whether it's before a game or just on a general basis?
Um, so I like all genres. I'm very like if I ever play my music like just on shuffle, like my friends and everyone around me, they don't understand. But before games, I usually like to listen to like EDM or rap. Those are like my two go-tos. Especially if I'm trying to get more like pumped up, I usually listen to those two. And like on a casual day, yeah, like rap will kind of be my go-to sometimes. I also just listen to like alternative, like yeah, I like all music.
Is it like a go-to artist before a game, or is it just anything that floats your boat at that time?
Yeah, I would say one, but like it fluctuates each game. It really depends on how I'm feeling and what I need.
Now, next non-hockey question is, who was the funniest teammate you had at RMU?
Oh, this is easy. My funniest teammate I had was Angelica Diffendale. She's just super funny and just a very outgoing personality. Doesn't really care what she does. Like just super funny. Like if you ever need a good laugh, it's from her.
How cool was it to see her get drafted in the NWHL?
It was super cool. I'm super happy for her, and I hope she does well. I know she will do well. I just hope she really enjoys it. I don't know. I'm super excited for her though.
Now, speaking of bet teammates with good style, who had the best style on the team besides yourself, obviously?
Best style on my team. This is a tough one. Uh, uh, she wasn't on a team this year, but I would still like give her the props. Like Sarah LeCavier,
Hmm.
she was on our team like prior. That's the one that I've always loved her style. I'm trying to think of someone this year, and uh, my goodness, I'm blanking. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't think of one.
That's all good. That's all good. I was just curious because I think your team has very good style just on the ice. So I was curious to see who also has some good style off the ice as well. I think that's an interesting question.
Yeah, like I think our whole team has very similar and like all the same style. So I think it's all good. Like we're all
Mhm.
very similar. So I think yeah, the whole team like ranges from good style. But I'll give maybe Maggie Burbage. She's got some really good style, like how she has her style. So
Mhm.
I'll give her that one.
Now, final non-hockey question is, what is your biggest pet peeve?
I have a lot. But like the one I'm probably most known for is like I don't like when people are like eating really loud around me. Like I have to walk out of the room.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's probably my biggest pet peeve is just like listening to people eat.
Yeah, I don't really have like many too like big food pet peeves. Like it doesn't really bother me when people like eat around me. But one thing that you might get this as well is whenever like I go down for breakfast and I just see like my sister like eating breakfast, it just bothers me for some reason. I can't
Yeah.
explain why, but it's probably like a sibling thing.
Yeah, I know. My mom's the breakfast one. I don't I can't be around her when she's eating breakfast. So yeah.
Now back to some hockey questions. Now my first question to you is, what should be done to help grow women's hockey in from your perspective?
I think there's a lot of things that we can do to help grow the women's game. I think the biggest thing right now is just being able to figure out one league. As most believe, I think the having two leagues is hard to follow almost. There's a lot of different things going on. But I definitely think as coming together as one league will definitely help. Uh, Continuing to grow the game is something that as everyone can do is just advocate it as much as they can. And you want to hear what people want to see. So like it's tough because the women's game is so much different from the men's. So to be able to want to watch the women's game, you're looking for the certain style of play that we're playing. Like it's very different from men's, and that's the whole like question is like, well, what's the difference? And it's like, well, the physicality, like they can hit men's and we can't hit. Should that change? I don't know. Like it's something it'll change the women's game if it does. But is it something you like? Is it going to change the viewers? I don't know. Like who? I don't know if that'll happen. Maybe a little. Like who knows if it's enough? I just think again, like the biggest thing is we need to figure out to continue to grow and to continue to build teams. Like I talked about in with another interview, it was hard to see another women's hockey team leave, as we saw North Dakota already leave, and now another one. So we're not growing the women's hockey game right now. It feels like we're shortening it by eliminating teams. So I think another big thing is just to continue to grow teams and to have more options for girls to go to.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that. And I think from my perspective, just watching college hockey, more exposure for college hockey. I think one good thing that happened this year was there was a lot of streaming services for each of the conferences in women's college hockey. So it made it easier to watch games. However, you never really see many women's college hockey games on TV. So I think putting it more on TV will help people find the sport and also help grow the sport as well. I don't know if you agree with me about that perspective or not.
No, I definitely do. Yeah, streaming when they were advertising a lot of it, and I think that's definitely helped
Mm-hmm.
grow the game.
Now, what advice would you give a younger player who's trying to pursue a career in Division One college hockey?
I think the biggest thing that I remember when I was first going through it was just play every game like it's your last kind of thing. Like you never know who's watching, you never know who's gonna be there, and every game counts. So I think continuing to obviously work hard and dedicate your time and yourself to the game is another big thing. But that's like the kind of the obvious. But it's the sacrifices that you're going to have to learn to make and understand and kind of learn to adapt because it's the sacrifices that you're making now are only going to get more once you reach your goal kind of thing. So understanding that your training, your whatever you're doing to get better, like off ice, on ice, it's just understand the reason why you're doing it and why you're doing it, and like continuing to love doing it, because as soon as you lose the love for it, it becomes almost like a job, and that's not what the game's meant to be. It's meant to love it. So to reach the high level, I think you just have to continue to understand why you're there. And as soon as you understand your why, everything will come. Just your like work ethic and being able to play very good and just adapting to whatever comes at you because you're just doing it due to the love that you have for the game.
Now, before the interview ends, do you have any shout outs you'd like to give to your former teammates, family members, or friends?
I can't. I would list all my teammates, but shout out to my team as much because I love them all, and my family just because they've always been there. So those are my two shout outs.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day. It really means a lot to me. I wish you all the best for your future endeavors and with your new school as well. So take care and stay safe. And thank you so much for doing this. It means a lot.